What up? What it is? What's popping? It's the neighborhood nice guy K Dot, and I am back with another premiere. This time it's Codename Lynx, and I have none other than the Doctor of Film, Najee Simons, back with me to break down another rendition of incredible film work. But this time it will be the Minnesota Lynx, who they are off to an incredible start at 6-2. They have a game tonight versus the Los Angeles Sparks. So, without further ado, the doctor. What's going on, Naj?
What's good? What's good, fellas? It feel and ladies, it feel good to dive into the tape. Uh, it's crazy when you dive into the tape and then you find yourself shifting your views. Like, I'm seeing something. It's different this time. I don't know, man, but I'm very happy to get into this team.
All right, cool, cool. So let's just get right into it. Again, the Minnesota Lynx sit right now at 6-2. And if you don't know, we talked about this on the flagship show, Keeping It 9450, where in our power rankings, we said that the Minnesota Lynx are incredibly good, and they currently sit in for week 3 at number 2. Even over the Aces, even though the Aces put a spanking on them the prior week. But again, to explain those power rankings, we go week to week by strength of schedule and by pretty much win margin in breaking down each game. So we determined as a collective that the Minnesota Lynx overall for that week looked a little bit better than the Aces. Now, it wasn't by a long stretch. It was probably by a very, very, very slim margin that they got the nod this week. So, hey, who knows? It might change. It might change this week. It might change next week. We just don't know. But I'm happy that you said that you pretty much had an epiphany on this team because when we had the discussion in our pre-prod, you said that they have great potential. However, you needed to see a little bit more to convince yourself that they can be for sure title contenders as opposed to maybe title contenders. So let's just go right into it and explain what your epiphany was and why now you have that change of thought as opposed to change of heart. Because again, we don't run by emotions, we run by straight facts on this Minnesota Lynx team, which I believe is a really, really good team and can indeed see themselves possibly in the finals if September, October comes. So let's just get right into it.
Well, first it was just sitting back, load up the synergy. You take all the emotions. Hey, what can I find on film? Now we already knew that the defense was what almost 1-on-1. Them and in Connecticut, just out of tier 1 defensively. We got that. It was really about the offense. I really had questions on the offense and if this was going to be good. Now, I can say the turnovers will and should be watched. They turn the ball over a lot. 17% of their half-court possessions are turnovers. Really don't even have, despite having a big as their best player, probably the MVP this year. Her Asia is a toss-up right now, and you still got AT. But, they really don't play. It's weird playing through a big, but not having that great post scoring back to the basket because almost 19% of their post-ups result in turnovers. So it's like a bad diet of that. And then, a good portion of the pick and rolls turn into turnovers as well. And I did not like that, they could get to the line more, but they're first in effective field goal percentage. So that's just shooting, factor in the 3-point being a little bit more without the free throws. First in shot quality. So I'm like, they're generating good looks. They're hitting quality shots, and they're first in 3-point points per possession. Granted, they could shoot more, but I'm like, okay, they have the shooters. You look at their roster. Courtney really isn't the 3-point shooter, but she's a mid-range sniper at this point. And it's starting to be worth the payoff because she's almost generated a point per mid-range shot. That would be their highest go-to play as far as the half-court offense. So it's worth the return on investment. They're first in mid-range attempts and third in points per possession per mid-range shot. So they're giving you the value back on the shooting, even though they're not getting to the rim as much. And, the turnovers will be an issue, something we have to watch. But you have Courtney, that's a good engine in the pick and roll and stuff. And what really opened my eyes was Kay. She can pass. Like, she can really pass, even though she may not be that heliocentric, heavy ball handler. She makes good reads. Like, I have countless amount of tape where she's just doing a simple wrap around the hedge, wrap around to the slip. She loves the pocket pass. So she makes those good passes, which gets the other players in good position. Collier, Smith, others, all in good position, just for good shot. They have two very good pick and roll bigs. So you add all that together with an elite defense, with being the best team off catch and shoot, or whether you catch and drive and pulling up, going to finish at the rim. So they have it all together and they're pretty good in transition offense. So it's really like, can they limit the turnovers? And if they can do that, the sky's the limit, literally.
Yeah, and shout out to the MVP candidate in Nafisa Collier, and also shout out to K Mac, who is balling out of this world this season starting off. I want to just briefly talk about the turnovers because we had this conversation again in our pre-pride. Now, in that percentile of turnovers, are the majority of those turnovers live ball turnovers or dead ball turnovers?
Now, it was crazy because when I was tracking, I was just hand tracking, because once we said, I went back and I'm like, let me look at just like 100 turnovers. Literally 43 of them that I watched out of the 100 were live ball, but the rest were dead ball. So it's almost 50-50. But granted, if it's a dead ball turnover, guess what? You could go back and set your defense.
Absolutely.
Rather than the live ball turnovers, and it's almost a guaranteed 2 points foul or mismatch.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing that I wanted to kind of talk about, from that standpoint, because again, a lot of people who aren't of a specific brand, they take things literally. And I truly mean that when I say they take things literally. So they see turnovers, they look at a stat line and they see turnovers. They see, well, Minnesota might have had 18 turnovers tonight. And they say, oh, well, those turnovers were just incredibly bad. But out of those 18 turnovers, were 9 of them live ball? Were 10 of them live ball? Or was it the opposite? Was 9 of them dead ball? Were 10 of them dead ball? Where in a dead ball situation, you have to take the ball out. Now, Minnesota is able to reset their defense, and maybe they cancel out that turnover, even though that turnover is still a stat. They might have canceled out that turnover by generating a forced turnover on the other end and generated a bucket in transition, because they are top, I would say they're top 5, maybe even top 3 in transition offense, if you will. So that was something that I was really, really intrigued to talk to you about. And I'm glad that you mentioned it. And I'm glad that you put a whole number to it. So out of 100 turnovers, 43 of them were live ball, meaning 57 of those were dead ball. And maybe half of that, they could have generated more offense by forcing the turnover on the defensive end. So that's why I am very, very 50-50 when it comes to the eye test and analytics, because looking at it from the eye test and looking at it from an analytics standpoint, sometimes they can parallel, because if someone were to argue with you that those same 18 turnovers, because they were just stat watching, you can say, well, no, I watched the game. 11 of those turnovers were dead ball turnovers. And out of those 11, 6 of them, they got the ball back and got a score.
Yeah,
They got a
yeah.
score out of it. So let's just do a little bit of showing off with you, because again, when I say the doctor of film, this is what I truly mean. So let's just take maybe 2 or 3 plays with the time that we have left and explain the Minnesota Lynx from an offensive standpoint, and let's explain it for the watchers and for the listeners, so that they understand how dangerous this Minnesota Lynx team can be if they were to continue to be consistent moving forward going on into the season.
So, like I said, Courtney Williams. Let's start with her.
Let's start with Court, because Court is one of my
This
favorites.
this team is very good at baseline out of bounds, and what's crazy, they have a series they go to. It's a rip. It's a simple. They line up in like a T formation. It's like 3 across. You have a big at the top of the key. Courtney's in the middle of that little T formation, and she's going to set a rip screen on the big. But Courtney's 5'8". How many teams are really going to switch that, no matter which big it is, are going to, switch their guard onto the big? So you are automatically forced to chase, and then she's coming off like an exit screen in the mid range to another. It's basically catch and shoot. She's either going to have a catch and shoot for the mid range, and usually it's a dime off of it, like a bucket off rip. Sometimes you'll have a big slip, and if they can force a switch, boom, it's automatic. They love the rip screen to screener off the baseline. It's almost unstoppable at this point. Connecticut, I seen like at some point throughout the season, they even tried to put Bowers on her to negate it, but it was kind of funny watching her try to chase her around, like chase Courtney around. It was like length versus size. It was kind of crazy. You go through some of this Caleb McBride field versus the hard head. She loves a little wraparound pass. Like I said, she loves a wraparound versus the head. You dive through some more tape. Like right here, she has the pocket pass versus her. And another one where they like to go to off the sideline out of bounds is this 77 action double ball screen, where they just inbound it, flip it back. You coming off 2 screens, and then you got an advantage, whether it's you coming off the screen for a shot, a dump off, a pocket pass. So those are a little like the ways they like to play. Definitely getting Courtney moving, and then the big flowing and moving off of that, and then they just go from there. So that's really on tape what you'll see they're trying to do, get Courtney to her sweet spots instead of just standing at the top of the key. So when we dive into the tape, we're looking at the tape, that's what you'll see. So now after this, y'all know what you're looking for throughout the season.
Yeah, and I know I think you were mentioning DeWanna Bonner on that switch with Court, and it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, you know what? Yeah. They did play together one season, if I'm not mistaken, in maybe 2021 or 2022. No, it was 2022. It was the finals year. Court and DeWanna Bonner played together in Connecticut that year. And what was funny about that is DeWanna Bonner, she kind of knows Courtney and her personality on and off the court. And it was funny that you mentioned that they even tried to switch with DeWanna to kind of negate the screen to screener action on the baseline out of bounds with that particular play. But it's like, if I were to put a percentage on it, I would say it's like a 95% chance that they're going to get a positive impact on that play, whether it's a made bucket or whether it's a foul that will lead them to the free throw line. So it's very, very, very intriguing about this Minnesota Lynx team. So last thing, and we will call it. Now that you have this this ideology, because of how much, and we're talking about close to 6 hours of film, where you'll do 30 minutes, you'll take a break, you'll do 60 minutes, you'll take a break, You might go as far as 90 minutes and then you'll take a break. If the season were to end today and they are let's say in this playoff hunt, where do you see them at?
So far as the West, well, I'm gonna just say far as the whole league.
Yeah, because granted, it's top 8. It's just top 8. I know they do. I know they do player of the month, player of the week, Eastern Conference, Western Conference. But when it comes to the playoffs, it's just top 8 straight up.
I'm gonna be honest. The only true thorn in their side right now is the Aces, and that's the Aces. I can see them beating Connecticut. Like I wouldn't be like
it was an overtime game. It was an
overtime
game, and they lost. And they lost on a possession.
Yeah.
If K-Mac hits the shot, then they win the game essentially. So I agree with you.
The Liberty, you don't know what you're gonna get. They'll smoke a game or two on their own. So at that point, everybody else, the one upsets that can upset them, even though we may have a future discussion if that would be even considered an upset, Seattle. So and at that point, it's like I think Minnesota, for me, just walked into that, hey, I can see you winning the championship door. And Seattle's like on the outside, like knocking in, like not there yet, but you see the storm is coming. The storm is coming. So, and I can honestly, besides the Aces and Asia Wilson is just amazing. We doing all this talk about everybody else. She's 1-on-1. Like she's 1-on-1.
We might have to just do a solo show. We might have to do just a jump ball and study hall on Asia Wilson alone. We can do that.
Like
we can do
literally
that.
Amazing. Besides, because they have some problems defending like post ups and stuff, but besides Asia and they can beat anybody. And I don't know. I know I'll be on an island where I will pick them over the Sun in the series.
Okay. Hey, that's fair.
I'm gonna say it. Yeah,
that's fair. And listen, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Doctor of Film has spoken, and I again truly appreciate you chopping it up with me, breaking down some film on the Minnesota Lynx, because the Minnesota Lynx are indeed a really good team. I really like this team, and coming into this season, I thought that they had a lot of upside, and I really, really loved their offseason. I loved their draft pick in Alyssa Peely. She's going to be she in spot minutes. She's going to be used to the best of her abilities. I really like what they did with her in maybe the lesser of the competition, just to get her feet wet. It makes sense that Cheryl Reeves is doing that. Cheryl Reeves come from a Detroit shop mold, coaching with Bill Lambert and being his second chair back in the early 2000s when they won those 3 championships. So I see where Cheryl Reeves is going. She's already a 4-time champion as a first chair. So I think she has, I want to say she has 7 championships total. 3 with the shot. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 3 with the shot and 4 with the Minnesota Lynx. But I could be wrong. I need to be fact checked there. But she is an elite coach. She is an elite coach. And I think that the Minnesota Lynx are indeed really, really good and can be a team to just look out for. So with that being said, this has been Codename Lynx. Always follow the show at the 9450 on Twitter, at the 9450 underscore on Instagram and TikTok, and at the 9450 on YouTube. Like, subscribe. We're doing everything that we can to provide quality content. So also follow the doctor, Najee Simons, at no layups _ on Twitter. Listen, he doesn't tweet much. So if you do ask a question, please be mindful that he doesn't tweet much. So, and I respect that a lot from my guy as well. All he wants to do is just watch film and talk basketball. And as long as it's basketball related, he'll answer your questions. So, shout out to you for sure always, and thank you as well for always coming on to the show with no hesitation. We're probably going to do this all summer. So look out for more episodes. Look out for also look out for Jump Ball and Study Hall profiling Asia Wilson. Yeah, we're just gonna have to do it. I know Jump Ball and Study Hall is more of a grassroots high school college show, but hey, if we want to profile somebody, we have to profile the front runner of MVP for the current WNBA season. I mean, we have to. So shout out to Asia Wilson for sure. She's a one. But this has been Codename Lynx. As always, this is Kevin K. Lewis. Follow me on Twitter at K.Lew3H, and we'll holla at you. Peace.